Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to International Affairs Broadcasting live from the Dhaka's Gulshan studio. My name is Shamsul Alam Pantho and I will be bringing you the latest global updates. Before I begin today's discussion on international affairs, let me introduce all my panelists here today. Alongside in the studio, we have Major Nasir Uddin Ahmed, who joins us today in the studio. Of course, he has also joined us on previous programs, as well as we have Associate Professor Shibli Islam from Rajshahi University. I welcome both gentlemen to the studio here today. Alongside, we have our geopolitical correspondent, Norman Floyd Barnes, joining us from Washington, D.C. I believe there is two stories that are on the agenda. First, being that the winter storm has grasped the entire nation across the 50 states, as well as various news coming out of Minnesota regarding the second killing of Alex Pretty and the aftermath of the public reaction. I want to get some more info about these two issues from Norman Floyd Barnes in Washington, D.C.
Greetings here in Washington, D.C. We are experiencing the second day of this winter storm. The snow has stopped falling, but the snow is now on the ground, and the ground is very cold. And we still have people without power. Over 100,000 people without electricity in the United States on the East Coast. Also, we are expecting a second storm to come in this weekend. Hopefully, it's not as potent as this first one. Moving to Minnesota, the president has decided to remove the border commander from his position and replace him with the border czar, Harmon, to take his place in Minnesota. And he has also spoken with the mayor and the governor and assured them that their tone is going to be reduced, and he's going to remove some of the Border Patrol officers and put them back on their normal duties on the borders. Take mind that there was over 3,000 federal agents in Minnesota, particularly the area particularly the area of Minnesota engaged in these issues with the shootings. The entire police force in Minnesota only constitutes 600 officers. So the amount that the president's talking about reducing, we don't know, but it appears that the governor and the mayor is somewhat pleased with this. What that means, I don't know, because Congress is planning to vote on the budget Friday, and one of the biggest issues is the Department of Homeland Security budget and whether or not they will fund it. The Democratic Senate, who has that will have the deciding votes, has stated that they will not provide funding for the Homeland Security budget, and this will affect, if this should go in place, we are looking at another government shutdown, and this shutdown could be longer than the previous one we had in 2025. So this will be very disruptive to the American public again. People will be furloughed, people without jobs, function will be shut down. So we're going back to this merry-go-round again with the government at a time where we are dealing with other issues overseas, Venezuela, the acquisition of Greenland, and now this flotilla, this armada that is staged off the coast of Iran, preparing for some type of military action. President has also stated that Iran, even though we have the armada off the coast, the president has indicated Iran has indicated they want to talk. The U.S. response is that we're open for business and deals are possible. So that is the latest from Washington.
Thank you so much, Norman Floyd Barnes, for opening today's discussion. Of course, major topics has been raised. One of those issues being how Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security's funding is going to be larger than the FBI funding for that matter. I want to focus in the studio. A partial US federal government shutdown is possible on January 30th, which is of course 3 days from today. And it is a the shutdown is following as a funding deadline approaches following the expiration of the previous agreement. The House passed funding bills for agencies such as Defense, Homeland Security, Education, and Senate divisions over funding levels creating a lot of uncertainty. I want to ask this question to Shibli Islam. As you were hearing Norman Floyd Barnes, he was talking about how Homeland Security and the movement regarding Minnesota first claiming the life of Helen Good in a fatal shooting, and then just very recently Alex Pretty, a nurse who was detained, gunned down, and this is causing major move away from the support for making America great again or the campaigns for Donald Trump. I want your observations, how you felt about it.
Well, it's an unfortunate event. The way they have been shut down, especially the earlier incident in Minnesota and later on in Minneapolis, and even in his own party, the Republicans are protesting. Republicans are protesting against this shooting. US President Barack Obama publicly made the statement. His predecessor, Bill Clinton, both Democrat presidents, as well as within the parties, within the Republican Party, I think criticism is coming out, and they're reiterating about the fact that they should abandon this activity. So they have been replaced as well. So I think that should ring the bell of Donald Trump, as Floyd was discussing about the winter storm as well. So the international relations of United States of America is in definitely in jeopardized situation, because now you can see how Canada has reacted, and there is a discussion going on. I saw a very epic picture of the Danish Parliament, how they reacted through laughing as if Mr. Donald Trump is a clown and he has been denied Nobel Peace Prize. So nominating Donald Trump for Nobel Peace Prize, that's the reaction. Danish Parliament's scene clears it all. So it's not, he's not only criticized within the state, but outside, beyond the borders of United States of America. So he's severely criticized. Now it is time to see. Now Donald Trump is a kind of character that you need to show him character, because there are two ways of dealing him. Because these constant protests, that has made him to change his policy. I think Americans, they themselves taught the whole world that how to change his policies. Because if you, how he has been handled by the world, world community,
right,
and how he has been handled by the US citizens themselves. So you can see, like, there is a way of handling, like what Swiss Prime Minister did, that she went there with a gold bar, she went there with a Swiss watch, and 35% tariffs been imposed on Switzerland, and later on it's been decreased or plummeted down to 15%. So
right,
that's the way of dealing it. Well, I can remember the event of 1983 when President Ronald Reagan attacked the Commonwealth Caribbean island, Grenada, and they stormed over there, and they pushed away some of the folks. Well, Margaret Thatcher, without informing Margaret Thatcher, without informing his British counterparts, Margaret Thatcher she was furious about it, but she never showed it publicly, because that's the way. Because Europe's security, Europe's defense is pretty much intertwined with the United States of America. Now, definitely in private, she actually expressed her anger, she expressed her criticism, right, but in public, she remained loyal to this friendship, to this ally, US-Europe allies. Now Britain has come out of European Union, but the European Union, they signed a trade deal with India. That's a very landmark trade deal for them. So things are getting out of Donald Trump's hand. So it's better that, because you have to understand, you have to accept that the world order has collapsed. There is a new world order. The Security Council, the UN, anyone Charter 27, that any state will not interfere in any internal matter of the state if that internal matter affects international, until and unless, even the UN will not interfere until and unless that internal matter of the state affects international peace and security. Those days are gone by. Now the 18th century has come back. The Monroe Doctrine, now the Donald Trump named over after himself, the Monroe Doctrine. So the world order has changed. Look how Canada has reacted, because the way they're putting forward their statements against the United States of America and their tariff strategy. So this is a lesson for the world community, that how within the Republican Party, the citizens, the peoples of America have reacted. The world community has to react. Now there is a risk, because it's very interesting to see how Donald Trump reacts while you go there to ingratiate him, and how he reacts while you go there with a backbone and face him. Well, there are two strategies that I'm reiterating again and again. Look how he admires Vladimir Putin, how he admires Xi Jinping, and how he admires Netanyahu, because they don't come out of their stand. But those who have who has come out of their stands, he is putting austerity measures on them. So that's the way to deal with it. I think the American people has to come out of their shells, and they have to understand. Definitely, it's very unfortunate, the winter storm that's been going on. People within America, they're in distress. So we express our solidarity for them. But they have to understand that another 3 years of this madness could not only destroy the world order, but it could create a World War III. So it is high time that not only the world community, not only the Europe, but it is the American people who has to come forward. So definitely in New York, we have seen how Mamdani has came out of, but it is always the Democrats' stronghold. So it's not something different for New Yorkers. But now it is time that Europe should take its own strategy. European Union is a kind of union. It's economically is very strong, politically is very distant, and militarily it's enormously weak. So Europe has to come up with their own defense strategy. And definitely China is there
is more news regarding how the European countries can come out, and definitely you mentioning China. I do have a story regarding this. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is set to visit Xi Jinping of China in a day or two, but I want to focus on a different angle here. I will definitely come back to this. I want to ask a question to Dr. Nasir in the studio. We know that Donald Trump's positioning and posturing game is so important to understand geopolitics. Recently in this month, he's had a very drastic relationship with Iran, once bolstering that protester death toll from 2,000 to 5,000 to now a staggering of 31,000. Where is this figure, and how are they controlling this figure? As the Iranian side, according to the news, the Iranian side wants to reach a deal. In an interview with the news agency Axios, Trump said the situation is in flux, citing the arrival of what he described a big armada. So he was talking about a flight carrier or a huge ship that is able to carry out strikes inside mainland Iran. And of course, Donald Trump is now saying that they want to make a deal, and they called on numerous occasions and they want to talk. He's of course referring to the Iranian counterpart. We were suggesting and we were theorizing that this month may be the month where we see incursion into Venezuela as well as Iran following the events. I want your analysis regarding US and Iran relations.
Thank you, Pantho, and warm regards to my co-panelists and other viewers. The first quarter of the 21st century ended just last December, and we are in the first month of the second quarter of this century. And the last century started with the strikes on Twin Tower, and that generated the war on terror from the USA side. And from that onwards, we have observed many of the activities of the USA in different countries. And in this series, this January started with sudden strike on Venezuela and just capturing the president himself, which he was unexpected, not acceptable, and not at all could be tolerated by any civilized society. But Donald Trump has done it. And within his country, you see, in the month of January, there had been 2 killings and of his own people, own citizen. He is trying to make peace all over the world. Now, at one side, he has made a board of peace for the Israel issue, where the 7 countries, including Saudi Arabia, also joined yesterday, and many other countries, including Russia, also have shown interest to join that. So that is the initiative by the Donald Trump for the peace negotiation in Gaza, and the last dead body of the Israelis were shifted yesterday from Gaza to Bed. But what is the gain of the Palestinians? What they have got? If you talk about just 5 days before, 5 journalists were killed from the strike from the Israeli side.
Correct.
So for their gain, for their minimum livelihood, for their child education, even the food for the children is now at stake. It cannot go smoothly. So in one hand, he is talking about making peace worldwide, including the talking is going on in Doha also for the peace in Ukraine and Russia sector, but his own people are being dying. His intervention in Venezuela is being strongly criticized, and his initiative within the country is also criticized. On the other hand, he has threatened Iran for strike anytime, and Iran also has given a very big shout that, okay, I am ready. If you want to strike, strike and see and face the consequence. So that shout probably again taken aback from the US side. Donald Trump is very tricky. He has just a few hours back, he has ordered one of the border guard official in Minneapolis to come back from the province to the headquarters, his headquarters, who was very influential, who used to come in the social media against that immigrants' activities, others. America by born is a country of immigrants. Christopher Columbus was not an American.
He was a Spaniard.
Yes. So from that one onwards, it raised and has come up to this stage. When this Christopher Columbus went to America, he was in fact looking for this land, Indian subcontinent, because we were at that time rich. We were leading the world culture. We were leading the world economy. From that, and they had been putting on the skin of the animals that time. And we used to use the fine clothing like the muslin saris. So that was our culture. That was our richness. That was our tradition. And they were putting on at that time with the cowboy hat and the dresses made of raw skin. From that side, now they have come to the driving seat, and gradually whole world is being captured by him, we can say. Now, probably the capture of Venezuela, and later on it could be in Iran, probably that was the plan, because these are the 2 countries supplying maximum crude oil to China. And China is the main target of US, now we all know, from economy side, from military side, from any other angle you point out, China is the main target of the USA. And the backbone of the China's economy is the crude oil from Venezuela and the Iran. And both were targeted by the US administration, President administration Donald Trump. But Venezuela, he could made it. And in this studio, I said before also, if he could capture president of the North Korea, we could give him the credit. If he could capture Chinese president, we could give him the credit. He has captured the president of Venezuela. I don't know how, but he could afford to do this, and how the Americans are accepting it. America has become such a country to capture a president of Venezuela. It is not expected from the US president of an US president. And yes, in Iran, as we all know, they are not declaring, but they had at least some capabilities for nuclear warhead. So probably that is the reason Iran was not disturbed. Rather, now a new chapter is going to open with, as you have rightly said, there are some talking going on for a negotiation or a new era between the USA and Iran.
So, in a very important trying time, of course, we see Venezuela, then we see Iran, and one cannot ignore the fact of Greenland. But there is more that I will discuss. But before that, we must go for a short commercial break. Ladies and gentlemen, do stay with us.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো 80টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant. Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and secured. Elegant and eye-catching design. Indulge, relax, discover the first 5-star chain hotels in Bangladesh. Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Welcome to Grand Club at Mirpur 10, Dhaka. Elegant spa and wellness facility for ladies and gents.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to International Affairs. Today, I'm joined in the studio by Mr. Shibli Islam, who is, of course, an associate professor, as well as Major Nasiruddin Ahmed, who has served Bangladesh military and Bangladesh Army, as well as Norman Floyd Barnes joining us from Washington, D.C. I have a following question for Norman. It is a trying time around the world for geopolitics, but as I understand, the UK Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is heading to China, is supposedly to land today. Of course, this would be new as the last Western leader to join Xi Jinping in a visit to China was Canada's Mark Carney. So once again, this would signal a rebuilding of the UK-China relationships, which has historically been frosty, as well as understanding boosting trade and investment to support the UK economy. But we both understand the fact that it will have an adverse reaction with US President Donald Trump. I want to understand how you felt about the two leaders meeting in China. Norman Floyd Barnes.
Yes, thank you. It's apparent that the different countries are looking for alternatives outside of dealing with the tariffs and the United States sanctions. I believe the UK, Canada and other are talking with Chinese officials, other countries, Brazil. They're prepared to have agreements being made to do trade and business. Uh, I believe that this is a good thing for the world. While the United States is trying to figure out exactly how they're going to deal and manage their affairs around the world and how the relationships are going to stack up as we move forward, the countries must decide on exactly how they're going to exist, how they're going to coexist, how they're going to participate in this process. It appears through the policies of the United States is that is America first is their number one objective in how they deal with the rest of the world. So as a response, the EU and other countries are now looking at alternatives. As we know, China is put itself out there as a option and willing to do business and make deals with other countries outside of the United States. This is going to have a real serious thought with the United States and how they deal with other countries because right now it appears that the world is moving forward and the United States is now have to make decision on how they're going to participate in this global multi-world process. So I feel that this is a good thing for the world, not a good thing for the current administration, who will have to constantly adjust and adapt and make concessions on how they're going to deal with things. So this is nothing new. It's going to continue. The Trump administration has a habit of making claims and then going back on them and making concessions. So the strong will prevail, steal, shop, and steal, and the weak will follow in line. But long-term sustainability, it must shift. There must be a shift from tariffs, control, and military influence on exactly how the world exists. So I think we're moving in a good direction in terms of globally, but we will have issues come up. There'll be conflicts come up. There will be more controversy. A lot of news stories going to be coming out of this. But in the end of the day, everything will be okay.
I must thank Norman Floyd Barnes for his analysis. I want to focus back into the studio with Shibli Islam. You were talking about how Europe had historic ties with the US and how it has strained regarding Greenland. But this time around, we see when Mark Carney had visited China, there was a certain distinguished investment from China in towards Canada, especially electric vehicles. And that is when this tariff ideology, Donald Trump's 100% tariff on Canada, this came out. This time around, UK's Keir Starmer is in China. Of course, his first official visit ever since 2018. So it's been a while, to say the least, almost 8 years, if I'm not wrong. And we've seen that a queue of leaders flocking to the world's second largest economy, China. It included France's Emmanuel Macron last December. And in next month, we will see the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz visiting China, as well as Carney did right before arriving at Davos. All of this coming to that point where the European nations are seeing a second option other than the United States or mainland United States. What's your observation? How do you see the coming days?
Well, if you are asking me that whether there is a 100% tariff again coming up on UK or not, I don't know. The Donald Trump's next announcement will make it clear, because whoever is visiting China, he is imposing tariff on that nation. Well, it's a great strategy, but Keir Starmer, he reiterated about the fact again and again that it's not about visiting China or having a dichotomy with US. It's about, because you were going to a country which is one of the second largest economy of the world. So they are very much open-minded. So this is why they're going over there. That's the Foreign Office statement of United Kingdom. So you have to understand, till now, Britain is very cautious about their alliance with the United States of America. Well, what Mark Carney did is remarkable. It's kind of revolutionary, and he, in his soft tone, he actually admitted, well, for some people it's an astonishing claim, but it's the reality of the 21st century that the new order has broken, and we are into a new world order. So definitely, Chinese. You have been to London. I have been to London as well.
Yes.
There are a lot of Chinese investment in London, and definitely a lot of students go over there. Chinese students go over there for study, and definitely there is an opportunity, and Chinese will come up with their new trade investment plan with the United Kingdom. Now, what we have to see, what is the reaction of President Donald Trump? If he consistently tries to put tariff on all the European allies, then the situation could really turn against him, because United States of America is a distant country, but his tariff policy, if he consistently keep imposing tariffs on his European allies, then the whole Europe could turn it down, and whole Europe can turn towards Russia, China, and definitely India as well. As you have seen, there is a remarkable trade deal, important trade deal between India and European Union, and
Right.
A free trade area has been open for 2 billion people. It is one of the landmark king of all deals. That's how European Union president has termed it. So definitely the fate of NATO, and it's a long after visit, because after 2018, when Theresa May last
Yes.
visited China back in 2018, but later on there is a espionage and spy claims between China and UK. But now in this changed situation in the world, I think there are some new axes that would be coming out in the coming month. But if you want my opinion, I think Donald will reinvigorate his strategy, and definitely he will come up with some talks, come up with some negotiations with the European counterpart, as you have seen in the internal matters of the United States, because when it is about to come out or go out of his hands, he actually resembles, or he admits, or he bow down or succumbed to the demand. So I think the next 2 to 3 weeks will determine that where world would be heading towards.
Of course, that's a brilliant analysis from Professor Shibli Islam in the studio. There are some important details regarding this meet that I want to come as well. The two leaders will be flanked by companies such as HSBC, Standard Chartered, Schroders, and the London Stock Exchange Group, pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca, car manufacturer Jaguar Land Rover, energy provider Octopus and Brompton, and the folding bicycle manufacturer. All of these that they will be discussing, the two leaders would be understanding a very big shift away from Western alliance. This is now a Western and Eastern alliance that is very important to understand where the global order is going. My question to Dr. Nasser, as you were hearing Professor Shibli Islam and Norman, the rhetoric regarding Europe, regarding China, Greenland issue suddenly disappears. It is no longer there. And Iran is back on the table, with the armada being in Persian waters, the Persian Sea. And you know that if war were to break out in the Strait of Hormuz, it would have a huge effect for the crude oil industry all across the globe. And I want to understand how you felt, and do you predict having a backing of this military doctrine, do you think that blocking of the Strait of Hormuz could have effects not only in that area but also in a nation like our country?
Of course, because the Strait of Hormuz that controls a significant amount of crude oil being imported by other countries from the Iran in the worldwide, and China being the major stakeholders. To my understanding, this particular visit of the UK Premier on the invitation of Chinese Premier, it's not only the representation of UK. I think, to my understanding, this is a representation of the, as you have said, some Western allies who all are severely affected by the tariff, as the professor had been talking about, the tariff policy of the Donald Trump, particularly not the US, I should mention, his particular. Even I was talking to my friend in Canada, and he literally said, the friend, many of the Canadian companies had to shut down because they were dependent on the USA import. So the export from Canada to USA significantly dropped down because of the tariff policy, and they're just neighbor of USA. So that is the situation in here. So this particular visit of the UK Premier is not only visit of UK Prime Minister, I think it is the visit of the allies around the UK, number one. Number two, as you have said regarding the Greenland, Donald Trump had been talking about this Greenland for many years back. It is not a suddenly appeared in 2026 or 2025. It was his talking point for long before. But this time he has particularly aimed at the rare earth of the Greenland, and this particular visit is also related to that because geographically UK is near to Greenland. So any disturbance in Greenland will definitely going to have severe impact on UK also, militarily, strategically, or the economically, number one. Number two, Chinese has investment, as you have rightly said, in UK. At the same tune, Chinese has the huge investment in Greenland also, particularly in the field of rare earth. So they are not going to just leave it just like that if the Greenland is being attacked by the USA. So if it is so, this China also need the support of UK being the neighbor of Greenland. So there is a particular pattern, geopolitical new pattern is coming up to counter the sudden mindset of the President Donald Trump, as he is thinking that he can do and undo anything, and which is going to just destabilize the entire world order. So for that reason, I will not be surprised if the Russia, China, Iran and countries of that magnitude joins together to find out a way. You see, Donald Trump, he has imposed more and more tariff on India for importing crude oil from Russia. But could he stop it?
Absolutely
Nobody bothered him. Nobody. You impose your, and I import from Russia. So I look for my interest. So that's how the world order is now going, probably beyond the hand of Donald Trump alone. Okay, and most important is that he is not backed up by his own people. As the professor had been telling, that there had been criticism from his own people also, own party, his predecessors. So if a president is borderless regarding his own people, own party, own philosophy, he is contradicting every now and then. So
there is a popular term online, it's referred to as taco, which is a popular fooding item. It goes down as saying, Trump always chickens out. And that is what happened with Greenland. I want to know whether that will happen with Iran, because I've been following a trail. Al Udeid Air Base belonging to the Americans and hoisting British troops in Qatar. The soldiers are going back to their homeland, which signals that there might be tensions in the coming days. That was, of course, a brilliant observation by Major Nasir in the studio. But ladies and gentlemen, it's time to take a short break, and after the break, we will have talks regarding other matters as well. Do stay tuned.
Play pool and snooker in International Standard Billiard Zone. World-class gym facility with exclusive equipment for man and woman. A restaurant of delicious local and international cuisine. Fully air-conditioned building with spacious banquet, car lift, sky view rooftop restaurant, all in one. Grand Club Limited, Mirpur 10.
ভালোবাসা একবার তুমি বউ কইয়া ডাকো।
হ্যাঁ গো,
আর কত দূর?
আরে আমি তো ফিডের গাড়ির লগে।
তোমার গরু হাঁস মুরগি মাছ তো অনশন শুরু কইরা দিছে।
কি কও? অনশন শুরু কইরা দিছে?
কেডা?
হাঁস মুরগি মাছ।
আরে ওগো মতি গতি দেখা মনে হইতাছে এসএফএম ছাড়া কিছুই খাইবো না।
হ্যাঁ গো, এসে ফিডের খবর ওরা জানলো কেমনে?
আরে ভালো জিনিসের খবর ছড়াতে কি আর মাইক লাগে? খবর ভাসে বাতাসে বাতাসে।
আরে দেখো, এসে ফিডের জাদু।
সম্পূর্ণ নিজস্ব তত্ত্বাবধানে বিশেষজ্ঞদের সমন্বয়ে প্রস্তুত হয় এসএ ফিডের পশু খাদ্য। অত্যাধুনিক প্রযুক্তিতে তৈরি এই পশু খাদ্য যেমন নিরাপদ তেমনি স্বাস্থ্যকর। এসএ ফিড, নিরাপদ ফিড, স্বাস্থ্যকর প্রোটিন। এসএ অ্যাগ্রোফিডস লিমিটেড একটি এসএ গ্রুপ অফ কোম্পানিজের প্রতিষ্ঠান।
Grand Palace, 5-star chain hotel, Zinda Bazar, Sylhet. Local and international cuisines.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming you all back to the last segment of International Affairs, and I want to start, and we were definitely talking about US positioning regarding Iran, how Europe is now tying up their friendship with China, but I want to bring out some issues before we can continue on. Of course, I'm talking about the upcoming elections for Bangladesh as well as a popular referendum set to take place 15 days from today, but I want to have a different twist on international affairs. I want to understand what are some of the problems that our nation faces, while I do not see any competent government of the past and of today as well not solving these issues, always creating a narrative and rhetoric, and there is no kind of solution on the table. Of course, there are multiple issues I want to talk about, but I want to start with Dr. Nasir regarding, I was talking about that our election is upcoming. There is multiple problems with our nation. One could be soil erosion, one could be climate change and how it affects the societies, one could be the rising inflation and the price of all commodities that people have to now have a huge burden on, as well as a refugee crisis starting from 2018 that does not see any kind of end. I want your comments before we can know more.
Okay, that is very alarming, I should say, because the UN, the head of the UN, he also visited Rohingya camp along with Dr. Yunus, and there had been he took iftar with the Rohingyas, and there was a huge expectation that maybe there should be some end to that crisis. Another Ramadan is knocking at the door, but there was not a single repatriation towards the other side. So it seems that whatever preparation, whatever we are talking about or arrangement we are making, that is probably only to keep them alive, not to solve the problem. But unfortunately, I was following the manifesto of the different political parties for the upcoming elections. There is nothing very importance given to this particular issue, and their foreign policy and other things are quite, I should say, obscure, because Bangladesh politics cannot run without the foreign involvement. Whatever you can say, we can talk big. I can give you particular few examples, like after 1975, where were those particular military officers? They were, where did they go? Particular one country. After this 111 government, Fakhruddin Moinuddin, where these people, those who made it happen, where did they go? Particular one country. After this fall of the last government, where did the government officials, the politicians, even the intelligence head of a country, military officers, serving military officer, where did they take shelter? In another country. So if you talk about Bangladesh politics without foreign involvement, that is not a correct picture. So there should have been a clear picture. If you talk about the honesty that we want a change, we have made this revolution happen because we are done with the so-called politics which has ruined us for last 54 years. there should be new beginning, new era, new happening. In that case, there should have been a clear understanding of general people regarding the foreign policy of the upcoming political parties, whoever comes.
Right.
That is not the issue. Issue is that what they are going to do about the Rohingyas, about the climate change, about the foreign relations with our countries, and especially when our industry, our inflation, our commodity price of the commodities, then the huge foreign loan and some of the project is being hanged.
Right.
Just 2 days before the Rupur, the project was given 25,000 crore taka. Now today the news is that that particular rapid transit is going to be broken. Another 2,000 taka will be required for that, just to break it, because it is useless. So how this economic problem is being will be addressed, that is not a clear picture. Just picture is, I will give a family card, I will give you money, I will give you this, I will give you that. So is it the long-term plan?
They'll provide you solutions that will support you in the short term, but forget that in the long term, Bangladesh is going to be affected, the households are going to be affected. And I want to have a following question with Professor Shibli Islam. As you were hearing Dr. Nasser, how he was telling that the problems go on, but those who we are choosing to elect to power, they do not see eye to eye, and some of the solutions that are required for the betterment of this nation. I want to ask you, as you are a professor, as you teach the younglings of the Generation Z or etc., some of these problems have been going on year on end, and it does not come to any kind of solution. So I want to understand how you felt about the future prospect for Bangladesh.
Well, the election is very important, no matter whether they have the policy or not. The problem is the foreign investment is stuck. Of course, there's a staccato in tones while dealing with the refugee crisis that we do have. But we need an election. Desperately, we need an election, because nobody wants to do business or trade with us without an elected government. Even Chinese or the Westerns, Europeans, or the Indians, whoever you bring your eyes on, you will see that nobody wants to do business with Bangladesh because they want a stable government. They want a stable infrastructure, stable administration. So but definitely the political parties have to come up with a specific plan, and it is better that if because then the voters will have the freedom, and voters will have the have the better opportunity to pick the best candidates. And as my panelist rightly pointed out, there is no specific solution that they have come up with to solve all the problems that we are immersed in. So my my suggestion is, after the election, we need a consensus. We need a consensus between all the political parties, because there will be the world is going towards a dilemma, whether to cooperate with whom, and who will have trade with whom. So to come out with this dilemma, and the defense issue is always will be coming up in the in this era. So we have to come up with specific plan, and we have to understand that our capacity is not that much. So we have to recapitulate that what we did in the past, and what would be our future strategy. And definitely the Rohingya crisis is a bigger threat towards our economy, towards our security, towards our defense, because terrorism is sparked over there, drug trafficking, human trafficking, every illegal activity that goes around the corner and as well as in between those camps. These are alarming concerns, not only for us but also for the international community. Now the next foreign office who will be elected, now it is their responsibility to urge to the world community so that this issue could be addressed in not only in UN General Assembly but in bilateral relations, in in different multilateral platforms. I think the Islamic OIC, Organization for Islamic States, we have to address this issue over there as well, because this is a vast population. Now we have to strategically take the decision. Look, Venezuela and United States of America, there is no equilibrium. One is a superpower, another is no match in front of us. But we have an equilibrium. we don't dominate Myanmar
Right.
anymore. What we used to do in the past. Now, the Myanmar army is equipped with Chinese,
Backing, yes.
backed. They are Chinese backed. Their equipments are modernized. So those days are gone by that we will go and we will thread them. Now in the Kondifuli rivers, their helicopters come there and go back without any challenge. So days have turned. So now it's time that we should rethink our defense strategy. There are a lot of things coming out of the corruption that has been gone on by the last government. So definitely the good governance will come and election will take place, and we were all looking forward to that election.
Brilliant analysis by Professor Shibli Islam. I must thank both gentlemen here as well. Dr. Nasiruddin Ahmed for his valuable insights and contribution, as well as our professor for giving the future days and how we can understand the betterment for Bangladesh. I must also thank Norman Flood Barnes, who had joined us earlier on from Washington, D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, today is January the 27th, and historically it is recognized as International Holocaust Remembrance Day, designated by the United Nations to commemorate the 1945 liberation of Auschwitz and Birkenau. That was historically known to kill almost 6 million Jews. Of course, that is important as today's date. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. I shall catch you on tomorrow's International Affairs. Goodbye.